Creative Speaks gives young people the platform to allow their voices to be heard when speaking on things that impact their lives. Our podcast is talking about social injustices from the young point of view.
The podcast is about social issues and what's happening in the world, and young people talking about it from their point of view.
Our goal is to inspire young people around the world
to inform young people about problems and social injustices currently happening in our society today.
Creative Speaks is for young people from young people.
You're listening to Creative Speaks.
Hello and welcome to our new interview series. We wanted to start a new series where we chat with young people about their different life experiences and with people who work with young people. When we were thinking about how to kick this series off, we only had one person in mind.
Jen McDonald has worked with and advocated for young people for over 10 years.
Founding Creative Spark in 2015, Jen has created opportunities for thousands of young people to experience the arts.
How's that for an intro?
I feel like nervous.
We've really talked you up in that intro.
I feel like you did, yeah. Yeah, it's weird because I originally when I started Creative Spark, I couldn't have imagined that this is where it would be.
That it would last 10 years.
Yeah,
still going.
To be honest, because I was quite young at the time when I started it, and I had absolutely no skill level or knowledge of what a third sector organisation should look like, let alone what a arts organisation should look like. And yeah, I just started it as an opportunity. I genuinely didn't think it was going to take
like your whole career. This is it now.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of, it did take over it takes over my life, to be honest with you. But no, it has been a journey of 10 years. But that's I feel quite proud of the statement of that. That you think that.
Yeah.
As a disclaimer, I did not write that.
I was about to say.
So I'm quite glad that message is clear to the young people that we obviously.
This isn't the question we've got. I just was Creative Spark's always a charity, like for the 10 years?
Yeah, so Creative Spark, obviously, Jena is one of the actual original OGs from, I want to say, I'd been working with you, Jena, maybe 2 or 3 years before Creative Spark actually was born. So it is structured as a Level 1 scale, which is a Scottish charity incorporated organisation. We didn't officially receive that charity number until July 2016, but we were called Creative Spark from October 2015. And it was always going to be constituted in that way because I didn't want to run it in a business sense because I wanted it to have that all inclusive model about it. I wanted it to be accessible because at the time I felt and still feel that the arts can be a very exclusive game, and it's how I feel like it's how many pennies you can throw at it. I feel sometimes people think they'll get the better experience. But I think that's why it was always a charity. It was always set and constituted in that way.
Okay, so now that we've had a little intro to what is Jen McDonald, we can now move on to our WhatsApp if we have them. Because I don't. So I'll just ask Jen first. What's up, Jen? Jen.
I was like, you're looking at Jen as an addressing me.
Sorry, that's really confusing. I have two Jens in front of me. Okay, I'll start with Jen Na.
I feel we always come to me first.
Yeah, it's because I feel like you always have good WhatsApps, whereas I'm like kind of floundering while you speak.
I don't know if I'm like legally allowed to say this. I was like at the train station today in Waverley, and all the train people, or the people who were like not the train conductors, but like the gate attendants, were all looking like they weren't panicked, they were all like really chill, but there was clearly like something going on, right? And then. So I was like really confused. They were all like talking with each other. I was trying to get them. Then I went through, and then turned to the toilet, and I went past the liner people. And that's when this group of liner people, not liner, LNER.
I was like, who's liner?
I always say liner, and then I said it to my mum yesterday, and then she was like, "You mean LNER?" And I was like,
"Get that right, Jena."
Anyway, it was I went past the LNER people, and then there was a group of them, and they were like, "What's happening?" And he said to the other guy, and he goes, "Yeah, I." Kid jumped down the side of a train to get his phone.
Yeah. That's pretty scary.
So
talking about addiction to phones, like that's going to be one of our.
Dropped his phone down the side of the train, and he went to go and get it. And they had to and I looked over, and there was like a bunch of gate attendants all by this one platform, and they were all. The train was the train was stationary, so it wasn't like there was anything moving. But there's no trains delayed or anything, so obviously they fixed it quick.
That's pretty scary. That's crazy. Imagine, I can't actually even imagine what would Like,
It's like rule number 1 is
You
like, don't go on the track.
I know.
Anyway, Alex, what's up?
Ooh.
What did you tell me on Wednesday?
Yeah, I'm doing my driving test tomorrow. Also, figured out you're apparently not supposed to tell people this. Everyone's like, why are you telling me you're not supposed to say when? I'm like, I don't care if I don't actually care if people find if I don't pass tomorrow and then
Do you know
people find out.
About that?
Uh-huh.
So like that, do you know what? I've been thinking about this, right? So people are don't tell me that, because then you're it's like, but you'd have to tell me you failed if you don't pass it. I think that's a thing. Or don't tell me when things are, because then what if you have to tell me a negative thing about it?
Yeah.
It's like this whole thing of you don't want to be failing.
Yeah, I find it so weird. I'm like, I don't like. Why would you think that I like care if like so many people have to sit their driving test like a lot of times. So I'm
My
like,
mother.
yeah.
She did it about 50 times.
Yeah, I'm like,
think
I
12.
could not care less. Like, and then I told my chemistry teacher, and he was like, "Oh, you just said that in front of everyone." I was like, "Yeah,
Wow.
I would like you to tell me which chemistry teacher it is afterwards.
okay." Niamh, what's up?
What is up? That is a fabulous question, Alex.
This guy.
The sky.
Yeah.
Everything else is down.
Yeah. Oh, I got Harry Styles tickets. Yeah, I got tickets to go
So
see
did
Harry
you?
Styles in London. So yeah, I'm going with Katrina.
Amazing.
So we're going to do that. Yeah, because we were planning to go down to London this summer anyway, just for like a little like weekend, the two of us. And then Harry Styles announced the tour dates, and we were like, well, we might as well just try for tickets, see what happens. And then we ended up getting the tickets, so we're trying to make a little plan. But we wanted to go see Paddington the musical whilst we were down there, but it's completely sold out. So
I feel like it would be harder to get Harry Styles tickets than Paddington the musical, but apparently
yeah,
not.
you would think so. You would
Yeah.
think so, but no, Paddington is completely sold out. So we're trying to think of what else to do. But the Harry Styles tickets have been secured.
Yes, in the
So,
basket, paid
yeah.
for, confirmed, receipt.
So-
Eva's going as well, you mate.
Yeah,
I
I
think-
saw on her Instagram.
Yeah. I feel like Eva would be horrifically devastated if she didn't get Harry Styles tickets.
I think
Hi,
she's got
Eva.
the VIP one.
Aye.
Hi, Eva.
She's infamous for her love of One Direction and Harry Styles.
Yeah, she is. I'll tell her to listen.
She's going to Louis Tomlinson or not? Because I'm
She
going
is.
to Louis Tomlinson.
Is she?
Yeah, she wouldn't miss.
I actually do need to text her because she'd probably be standing. Because I think I'm standing. I don't know. I didn't buy the ticket, so yeah, I'll need to message her. But yeah, Harry Styles in London,
Yes.
2026. That's what's happening. That's my what's up.
Amazing.
Jen, what is up?
What is up is today I paid a lot of money for my dog to get his teeth cleaned. But do you mean Odie has appeared in a Creative Spark production? He obviously was Toto
and
when we did Wizard of Oz.
His debut.
It was his debut and his last appearance. I think that he cried all the way through Ailey Reid singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow, so it was like, right, okay, off. So yeah, he's 10 this year, and he's breathed really bad, and took him to the vet last time. They're like, right, something's got to be done about these teeth, and I was like, right, so vets are being criticised right now about how much they cost, and so yeah, he only needed 3 teeth removed, which that's good. I actually thought he'd come back with none. I was like that. But, so hopefully he won't have bad breath. I was joking, like imagine he came out with turkey teeth or something. That'd be so funny. But so yeah, that's my what's up, that I spent a lot of money today on my dog's dental bill.
That's so Louis' breath is
I had to
terrible.
buy a dog therapy session for my dog, like an online therapy session.
My cat.
Wait. Online therapy for the dog. How does that work?
My mum had to sit with her computer and do it on like Zoom, and then she had to talk about all of her dog's issues to this woman.
My
The woman
cat's
was
on
like-
medication for anxiety.
It's not funny, was it?
It's not a funny situation. I'm sorry. Have you seen that? It's a
Is it the one in the courtroom?
yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, tell me you're sorry. An actual heartfelt apology. I'm sorry. And she starts to laugh. She's like, it's not a funny situation. My cat's on the medication for anxiety. I love that clip. Anyway, that's a Scottish pop culture moment that needs to be shared. So yeah, will we get into the main body?
Question 1.
Question 1. Why purple?
So I was talking to Alex on Wednesday that I'd been at an event, and somebody was talking to somebody that knew Creative Spark, and the person went, "Oh yeah, the purple lady," and I was like, "Oh no, either the branding's really strong or purple's my personality. I haven't really decided that yet." Why purple? I think. Well, to be honest, purple is a gender neutral colour, so like boys and girls, all in between, it's not really associated to a gender. I've always liked the colour purple, and originally it wasn't meant to be one colour. Like the logo, if you've seen it, is many different colours, and it was all the point in that. It's just my favourite colour. I think that's the only answer I've got there.
I feel like having a strong colour though as your brand is probably a really good thing.
I still remember little. Let me do the math. 7-year-old Jena getting handed her purple shirt for the first time and going, "Oh, this is fun." So,
it's a fun colour.
I think when you're expecting everyone to wear it, I think it's, if you have that kind of, also it's a darker colour. So it's harder wearing. So it's like, it'll last longer. So that kind of thing.
So I was Creative Sparks for 10 years and trying to do the maths on how many of those would have been. Like 6 of them would have been in the dark purple. Lasted the whole time. The whole 6 years in that dark purple shirt. Before I moved into my fun little tie-dye.
So something we wanted to talk about with Jen is because this podcast has a youth focus, we wanted to chat to her about her experiences with working with so many young people and over like a period of time where you would have seen how it's become different. So do you want to give us a background of how you first came to work with young people, or whether this was something you always wanted to do, or whether that's something you kind of fell into?
It was definitely fell into it by accident. So obviously I'd left school at 18, went to study straight away down in Carlisle, and then came back at like 21. And my sole focus was like, well, I want to get into an accredited drama school because I want an agent and I want to be a musical theatre performer. Obviously, I had to work at the same time. Obviously, I'd moved away and I was back at home. And my dad at the time was working at South Lanarkshire Council. And as we all know, all local authorities have a creative arts department. And my dad, being my dad, was like, well, let's see if there's something you can get out of that. And I remember my dad put me in touch with must have been the Arts Development Office at the time. And here's me saying, I've got all this experience. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. And my first thing was working with a really renowned theatre maker now. I think it's Greg. Greg was his first name, and I think it's Sinclair is his last name. He's like a full-on professional theatre maker now. And we were to come together to work with these vulnerable young people to put together like a promenade performance for the Fringe, but it was all based around kazoos. And I was the drama leader of that. It was all by accident. And then when I started that, I was like, I actually really like this. And then I was still trying to audition to get into drama school. So I spent 2.5 years trying to get into a master's course at a drama school, coming to realise that I think if I was auditioning to drama schools now, I think I would probably get in. At the time, 15 years ago, I would say it was probably not. It was probably a little bit harder in the industry to be an individual, to not fit a certain kind of mould. And obviously I was picking up wee jobs here and there, and then that is when I started working which was a theatre school before it was Creative Spark, and that's when I realised that I actually really like this. From there I just took little small jobs, so I did fall into it by accident, but I had a really great experience when I was at youth theatre, but it was still, I knew that I didn't want to do it in that way. Because I didn't feel like it was very nurturing, or I didn't ever feel comfortable. And I wanted to create an environment that young people could come together and feel comfortable in a space. So yeah, it was complete accident. I never set out to actually do this. I actually think a lot about, maybe I should have went into social work. I think about that a lot. Just I'm very passionate for the vulnerable, for people that don't have the best start, which is not down to any of their choices. So I think back and think, I wonder. But then Creative Spark wouldn't exist if I'd done that. But
it's
obviously,
kind of like a merging of the two, almost. Creative Spark, or your vision for Creative Spark is to be alleviating those kind of struggles for people. Another thing that we were really interested in asking you about is, over the course of Creative Spark, being over 10 years old now, what have you seen as a difference in working with young people? Like, how has it changed? What are the new challenges?
I would say, yeah, I would say even in the last 2 years, in the last 5 years, children's natures and behaviours have drastically changed in the time that I've done this work. I did a lot of work before I created Creative Spark, so I'd been in a lot of other communities. I didn't really necessarily work a lot within my own local authority based in Bartonshire. I would say obviously the world has changed in 10 years and people's views on things have changed. I would say that children's mental well-being is so fragile just now. There's also a lot of children are coming through with additional support needs, and I don't just mean like neurodiversity or things like that. I mean like they need support. Like they need support just to step foot into the room. So I'd say that the challenges are now doing Creative Spark is you need at least 3 experienced adults in that room to actually run the class. And yeah, the children's nature, also children's like fact that they swipe a lot and it's like they want to do things quickly. So like sometimes they don't necessarily have the patience or they don't necessarily have like the time to wait. And also it's a very saturated, you call it, I say market in air quotes, in terms of after school activity. There's loads of that available now, so you're competing against other things. And I would say now boys will be boys and girls will be girls. I feel like it's going back to that of the boys get pushed down the sport and the girls get pushed down the dancing vibe. But I would say it's definitely more challenging and your emotional bandwidth is really stretched on a daily basis. And the amount of quite difficult disclosures that you're getting now from unexpected young people. And I would say that mental health issues are not discriminatory. Like it doesn't matter if you're in the SIMD 10% indexed area or you're living in the 6-bed mansion in the Woodley. Like I would say that affects everybody across the board. And it's affected a lot of young people that I've known really well. I wouldn't have expected.
Right. So that's developed maybe not seeing them over the pandemic.
Yeah.
Is it quite a lot of people that you've kind of seen come back?
There was a lot of people during the pandemic. I was really surprised when they came back. I was like, wow.
Different person.
Yeah, different person, different needs, different wants. Do you mean the pandemic wasn't kind on anybody, to be honest? But when you're in those pivotal years of the transition to first year, or you're starting primary school, or you're leaving school, I felt like, but then I also feel like, see the young people that are like 8, I would say 9 or 10 now, I would say that they're the ones I feel have affected the most. The pandemic.
It's probably the people who are most effective that we've seen in society are people who are at formative stages. So whether it's starting university or starting high school or starting primary school, where like really key skills are formed. I always hear this kind of discourse that it's either when people talk about the cases of conditions like ADHD and things like that increasing over time, especially since the pandemic, it's always either an argument that no, it's just because diagnosis is increased and we're more aware of this, so therefore we can diagnose it, or it's only because this is like a mass issue that's really increasing. But I think it'd be helpful if we could kind of frame it more that it can be both, like both will become more aware of it and being able to diagnose it and things like that, but also there are things that can cause ADHD to present differently and perhaps have more of an impact on someone's life, especially since the pandemic. And also, I think something we don't talk about enough with that is the impact of screen time. And I think a lot of kids have really come to rely on it since the pandemic in a way they didn't before, and that can really impact. Although you're not seeing them, there's no phones or iPads or anything like that classes, but the impact of the kind of structural change that can have in someone's brain is something you probably see quite a lot.
Yeah, I've had a conversation with you before about like how you've noticed the attention span of like young children has gotten like worse and worse over the years.
And also as well, the communication styles have drastically changed. So you've got young people who don't communicate in a in-person setting at all to their friends. So they're either on games and they're chatting on the games, or they're chatting through Snapchat, or they're chatting through a WhatsApp chat or whatever the other fandangled social media things are. so when they come into the room, they don't really know how that, and they don't really know how to kind of present that. Also, they're extremely overwhelmed by a room that's really loud, really busy, really active, really engaging, and the attention span is also an issue. But also as well, the imagination skills aren't there. Like, it is really surprising, and you can see what children read, as in read to or whatever stage they're at, or children that literally just watch telly or film. And telly and film is a creative outlet. It is still using your imagination, but it's presented for you. So I've noticed that a lot, how some young people, you're doing a game, you're asking for something, they just can't give you an answer, and also they can't think on the spot. It has to be like they struggle with that spontaneity, although they struggle in the room with neurodiversities clashing against each other is a big often one. Then where I was talking about this, a network, that sometimes having sessions just for people with additional support needs is sometimes the worst thing you can do, because those things a lot of the time will clash against each other. You might have somebody with a neurodiversity that doesn't like loud noises or fast paced. They need more processing time, and then you've got some people that just love to smash something. They love that loud noise, they love the vibration that creates. So if you put those two people in the same room, it is really difficult. And obviously Creative Spark operates in an all-inclusive approach, hence why we now need more of our team in the room, and we are given more one-to-one support than we ever have, and that's just 60 minutes a week. So I feel like, young people have changed drastically, but I would also say young people have changed drastically for the better. Way more outspoken, way more educated on things. Like when I listen to this podcast, in complete awe of what you guys, like the words that you use and the things you actually know and care about.
Polarization.
I honestly, because at your age, when I think back on that, just was not on my radar to behave in that way. And I think that's what I love to see, is that you want to break a system and rebuild it. You want to be a disruptor. You want to but you're really articulate with it. I do feel like, because there's so much information that you can access, I feel like young people are more opinionated, and to some adults that they hate that. But we all know certain generations that wouldn't appreciate a young person's opinion because it might make them feel stupid. But I think that's a moment where you go as an adult, well, what can you teach me? Because I feel like in the 10 years I've learned so much about who I am as a person through all the thousands of young people that we've worked with, and that I've had the privilege to be in their company of. So I would say children are drastically different from 10 years ago.
It's definitely not your job to know what the root problem is. You're just presented with a change in landscape in terms of young people, and then you just need to adapt to that. So how have you, what's changed in your approach basically since you've seen that change in young people?
I think it's just you take the young person as they are. So it's like you take them as they are. You try and get as much information from their guardian as you can that they're willing to give to you. What level of support do they need in the room? Also, like scaling back we do certain warm-ups the same way. We do different approaches to classes remain the same. And they've changed over time to make children comfortable to be in the room. Like it's not really about getting to the show, it's about stepping in the door. So obviously, and I upskill myself quite a lot. I attend a lot of like different networks that happen within the local authority, national networks. I try and upskill myself in trauma-informed practice and upskill myself in how domestic violence can affect young people, how basically online safety. I basically, as obviously the leader of the organisation, I need to make sure that we're following, I don't like to say the word trends, but we're definitely trying to move with what children need from us. But it's definitely it's an individual approach for every child. So every child, I feel like as well, like Sky would laugh and she would say, oh, if I opened a register and asked you to talk about this child, you could tell me 3 facts about them, because I make that my mission of how can you feel valued and safe in that space to do something for me that is really daunting without me knowing you, because I feel like that's my job. I need to know the young person as them in order to enable them to get what they need from Creative Spark.
I think that's maybe a part of your kind of personality that makes you suited to this so well, is because I always feel like you don't just sound like you're like trying to be interesting. Like you genuinely are interested in hearing what every young person has to say, and I think that they probably don't notice that that's what's having an impact, but that's probably what draws young people to Creative Sparks a lot of the time, is that they maybe feel, obviously you could go to any organisation and the adults there know that getting to know a young person, hearing, letting them speak. But I think young people are often more like young children especially, are more perceptive than we think on whether we actually want to hear about them. I think they can tell from your tone whether you're just asking to be polite or to have something to say, or whether you're actually asking because you want to get to know them on a personal level. So I think that's something you can't kind of grow that skill. It's something you have or you don't. Like you're either interested in a young person or it sounds bad to say you're not interested in a young person, but you know what I mean, like the little things, you know.
Because as well, obviously, I'm an adult in their life that's not somebody they're forced to be around.
Yeah.
So I'm not their teacher at school, I'm not their guidance counsellor, I'm not their parent, I'm not their auntie or their cousin or whatever. I'm an adult. They've chose to come into my company, so I feel like there'll be so many adults in their life because everyone's got a busy life that it can appear that they're not listening.
Yeah.
Like, and I will always, and you have seen it many a time, I will let a child speak. I will never cut them off because I think it's really brave for a start to put your hand up to actually want to speak. You've all witnessed it, that we're sitting, we're getting the questions at the end of a rehearsal or whatever, or at summer school in the day, and it's like, and it's the same question that's repeated and repeated, but I will let them and I will answer it the same way. I'll answer it, yep, those shoes are fine, or yep, the show is this day, yep, the show is called that. Do you mean it's that kind of thing of, well, you put your hand up and that's you speaking in front of a room of 70 people. So like I always try and tell my team that you can go in with these plans that you want to deliver this session and you want to get this outcome, but it's not really about you, it's about them in the room, and they have to feel empowered when they leave, and then they need to feel included. And I think that's just me as a person. I've always liked people.
Yeah.
I like to chat. I like that. I find people interesting, and that's why the BU part is there, because everybody has a story to tell, and they need. Some people need a platform to tell that, or some people need an influential adult in their life that feel that they can talk to about that kind of stuff. So I feel like, yeah, that's kind of who I am as a person. That's kind of like what I really.
And you might not have ever, you didn't go to university thinking I'm going to go to work with young people, but like you kind of found your way to working with them anyway, and found out that that's something that is suited for you. So it's something to be said for the fact that you will, if something's really suited to you, you'll kind of find your way to that.
So this is like kind of similar to the first question I asked about the charity and stuff. Obviously it was a charity. Was it always that plan? Because it's not just the classes. There's obviously weekly classes, which I do like, and then there's the summer schools and stuff, but it's not that you've kind of like gone out to do more like community projects and stuff. Was that always the plan, to do these community projects, or is that something, and kind of how about that?
I would say like I didn't really have a plan actually. I started, and it wasn't until I actually had a real fear of working with adults in this context, like way back when I started this. I was like, oh God, I don't really know how I would be my authentic self in an adult setting. You've all seen me. I'm a very playful adult. I'm a very exaggerated adult. I'd be bold, be brave, be used, not just on my t-shirt for the sake of it. Like I'm trying to be those three things every day in everything that I do. Do you mean I'm not always bold, I'm not always brave, and I would say I'm always myself, but sometimes I'm not the other ones. So yeah, we kind of when I started Creative Spark, obviously it's a charity, and obviously when I started it, I was looking at other organisations. There's Impact Arts, there's Lyra, there's lots of other organisations that delve into that category of not just children and young people. And it was actually when I was at EDVA, and obviously EDVA, that's our third sector interface, East and Bartonshire, they are the ones that helped us get constituted, and it was one of their as their volunteer manager. She said to me, have you ever thought about helping adults with this? And then I kind of had a wee deep dive into it, and when we did the first partnership with Grace in 2017 was when I realised, no, that to me is part of the true magic of how the arts are so powerful as a holistic tool to support people in the community that's not public sector, that's not local authority, that's not NHS, but it has so many things that go with it. So fell into it by accident. I fell into it by accident, but it's actually what my focus is going forward is moving that forward. Like, what does that look like? There are two strands to Creative Spark. There's the youth theatre and there's the community arts projects part of it.
So obviously with it being like 10 years since you've started doing Creative Sparks, and you've talked about it before, like earlier with Jenna, how you've known her since she was like, was it like 7 or something? And now Jenna's in university now, like Jenna's studying politics. Like, what's it like being able to work with these young people and then seeing them like grow into adults, seeing them evolve, seeing them do all the things that they've said they wanted to do?
I just think it's a moment of pride for me. Like, obviously Jenna is a tenacious, like really effective young woman that I was only a small part of that journey, but it is a privilege to have been included in that, and to see Jenna from 6-7 years old to now 18, to see there's loads of young people that we could name. There's loads of them that. Do you mean it is incredible that they've stuck around that long, especially when we're talking earlier about so much choice that you can have and so many things you can do. I do also feel very privileged the amount of time that you've all have given me. Like that to me is massive, to give somebody that amount of time. I just feel really privileged and really proud of every single person that has came through Creative Spark, continues to be at Creative Spark. Sometimes I actually find it a bit overwhelming, like the amount of times, like when I was actually clearing out like our online storage and found Jenna's first picture we ever took of her, and found Nicola's, found Andrew Cowan's, found like loads of Aiden's, like all these people that you were only in their life, you were in your life for quite a substantial amount of time, but I just like to celebrate it for them and with them, and I will continue to always. Once you've been a spark, you're always a spark. You can come to me regardless if you come to class or volunteer. If you need anything from me, it's like an open door. Just come and say hello. And I think that's where I'll continue to get my energy from, is like everyone's youthful energy and ideas to move forward. So it is overwhelming at times to think how long you've been in people's life, but it is a complete and utter privilege.
Yeah, because I joined Creative Spark
later.
I think I was like 11 or 12 or something.
I don't know. Wait, did you go straight into youth company?
I did.
Yes. So you went straight into youth company.
Yeah. But like even though like I've spent less time with you than like maybe other people that you've had that have come through the company, like genuinely, if I was like to make a list of like adults in my life that have like genuinely impacted my life, you would be like, you're on it, because like it genuinely, like the arts and theatre, like it genuinely is that powerful to people.
And also Jenna's previously spoke about she kind of opened up a few episodes ago about certain challenges she had throughout her time at Creative Spark, she didn't have when she started, and she
thinking of Jena, when you talked about Jena did have her struggles with her time at Creative Spark, but the resilience that Jena has gained in the time I've known her is absolutely remarkable. I would feel like I've seen like young people transform in front of my eyes, like there's loads that I could think of that they're not that young person that I met. Do you mean people think you need to be so outgoing, so exaggerated to go into an arts context? We actually don't. Like you can be, quite a lot of artistic people are introverts, believe it or not. But do you mean like seeing people blossom? But also that actually the proudest thing for me in the 10 years is the friendships that people have created, the networks that we've given young people. We've helped you find your people. And we've helped you find those people that will probably hopefully be friends for a long time, way past your Creative Spark time. That's really touching to me that we've created that support network for you guys, because young people only know what young people are going through. I can be there to support you, but I'm not going to truly understand it because I'm past that part. But yeah, I think Jenna's transformation is pretty incredible, to be honest.
So how old's Emmett now?
Emmett's 6. He was 7 in July.
So just over half of the time that you've had Creative Sparks, you've been a part of Creative Sparks, you didn't have any kids, and then the last half you have had kids. So how's that changed your perspective on what it means to bring up a young person and like the young people you work with?
I think that it pushes forward to me that the emphasis of the nurture and the care is the most important part. And allowing a young person to make mistakes, to discover themselves is quite an important thing. I also came to realise that it was actually quite a scary thing. Parents were trusting me with their children, and I didn't really get the gravitas of that until I had my own. I was like, oh my God, people are actually trusting me to look after their child. So that was quite a big realisation when obviously I'd had Emmett, and then obviously since I've obviously had Avery as well. But I think how it shapes, it also shapes me as a parent slightly as well, and how nothing is, if anyone could come and ask me anything, like it doesn't matter. Also as well, I want to bring up a confident young person, like I spoke about earlier, that can challenge, that can speak openly, that is articulate, that will always try their best to do the right thing, step forward, not step back. I feel like that is kind of my emphasis on how I would like, how I'm trying to be a parent, but also how I'm trying to be an advocate for young people. It just changed. Having Emmett and Avery's just made me realise that I just want for these young people to feel even more sense of belonging. I want them to feel nurtured and to feel like a part of something.
Yeah.
Because it's horrible when obviously as you're grown up, you don't have emotional literacy to know what's happening, and even Emmett's only nearly finishing primary 2, and he's had challenges within friendship groups, within social settings, and I also want to be a good example of what being kind and respectful is, because I feel like you're not going to go on with everybody in life, but you need to be kind and respectful to them, and you need to treat them like you would treat everybody else. So I feel like, having them has changed my thoughts on working with young people.
So Creative Spark is 10 years old now, nearly 11. Where do you hope that Creative Spark will be in 10 years? What's your like dream of what it might be in 10 years?
I would just love to have an art centre here. I want to have a theatre here. If they're not going to build it, we're going to build it.
Yeah.
Like, I think in my mind, if we're not going to get one, if our local authority, if our trust don't see that that's a priority here, to have a professional working theatre, though there are spaces obviously here in East Dunbartonshire that we obviously use, but they're not a Cumbernauld Theatre, they're not a Harbour Arts Centre, they're not a Beacon in Greenock, they're not any of those type of places. Dundee Rape, there's Sitstron. We need a space of that nature, a 200-seater venue that's a multi-purpose venue that can be shared within the community. It's not just ours, it's for the community. There's many buildings here in East Dunbartonshire that could be renovated and turned into that, but East Dunbartonshire is a commuter town. If they can build more family houses, they're going to build more family houses. So I think for the next 10 years I would probably say in 10 years' time I wouldn't be the artistic director here. I think it's really important that it gets passed on. 10 years' time I would be 48. I feel like I know that I would age out. I don't think that's the thing, but I feel like who's the next voice that's going to advocate for the community in the way that I have? I'd always still be involved with Creative Spark, and I'd just have a different title. I would also love Creative Spark to have its own, like a better building than what they have, but that would be housed within this fictional arts centre theatre that we would have. I'd love Creative Spark to be producing and informing professional productions. I would love Creative Spark to have that element that it delves its foot into. We've got all these amazing young people that want to pursue acting as a career. Well, it's really hard to work within Scotland in the professional theatre like world. Well, can we make a company then? Is there a company that could come together out of previous Sparks who've graduated, that have got the knowledge, have got the spark in them? Can we create a professional company that would then tour, would then be housed with that, their residency would be within the theatre that we've created? They're producing work that's forward thinking, all inclusive, that kind of idea. I would love Creative Spark to have that aspect of it. And I would in the next 10 years I'd like Creative Spark to be recognised as a front runner, as an RFO'd organisation, as an organisation that's put the values and the mission and the aims at the forefront of everything that we've done. But yeah, I would say in the next 5 years, Creative Spark needs to make a structural change. It needs to make a leap of faith. It needs to how do we get to that next level of an organisation? So we need to kind of aspire for that. But in 10 years' time, I want the theatre. It needs it. We need it.
Is that almost like a kind of ceiling right now that's stopping us going on to achieve what we?
I would say what's stopping us to achieve is we don't have the operational structure that we would like, because we don't have the money.
Yeah.
So I feel like the next stage for Creative Spark is to either gain substantial funding, that we could have a leadership team, because everybody that knows me or Creative Spark knows that I probably do 7 or 8 people's jobs at the same time, which means I'm probably not doing a good job at all of them. So it requires, Creative Spark needs investment for it to survive for 5 years. It needs investment. But I would really hope that those things would happen.
Yeah, I think it's important for those kind of stories to be shared of organisations and charities that because obviously we live in a world where there's really pressing issues that can be seen to be really directly affecting people's lives, and often when you see the stats or you or when the government releases a budget or something like that, it seems people jump to, we need to be directly solving this problem and this problem, but I think it's important to share stories of organisations like Creative Spark, because then I think that's one of the only ways people will come to realise the importance of that in a community, and how it can actually be a really cost-effective way of the impact that Creative Spark has is hard to quantify, but with like a relatively small amount of funding, kind of government-wise, it could have a really massive impact on a community. Whereas obviously direct funding to things like other things that alleviate inequality, like food banks, like the things you think of, like support,
cancer charities,
cancer
charities,
support groups, all this. Although that is like a really obvious way that you can see direct impact, I think you need to invest less in an organisation like this to have just as much of an impact. So I think hearing stories about organisations like Creative Spark is really helpful to remind people that even though this maybe isn't what you think of when you think of something to alleviate inequality in the country, it's still a valid tactic.
It still works.
I feel like there's a lot of pessimism in today's day and age in this country, and definitely about young people. A lot of the conversation around young people is how difficult life is going to be for us, and whether that's just in terms of like getting a house, getting that's what the conversation is a lot of the time. But do you find it difficult to stay optimistic for the future of young people?
To be honest, I don't really focus on that. I would really just focus on being that relief from a difficult time for young people. I'd also love to have a creative pathway within Creative Spark, that you could work here, you could get a qualification that would enable you to work within an art context. So my feelings for young people in the future is, well, what can I do within the small realms of power that I have to enable them to be workforce ready, enable them to work within a sector that is thriving and is going to be needed going forward. Do you mean, I don't think we're ever going to lose theatre. I don't think that, do you mean, surely AI can't replace that? But do you mean, I would say that I don't really think about that. And that sounds bad, because to be honest, I'm just working in the here and now, and I suppose, how do you get, it's kind of like what you're talking about in this back collective of the exam results, the house and the car, and what you're meant to do. Do you mean, are you a good person? I think that's kind of where I would go with the concern I have for young people is, are they good people? Do they understand what community is? Do they understand how coming together 50,000 people standing and shouting about something is better than just one? Is that that connective power that when young people come together is undeniable?
I think it's important that we kind of look at what we have at our disposal, and not. It's a good point that about you don't need to think about that. That's not your job, but you can have more impact if you focus all of your energy into making sure that young people that you come across have the best impact. You don't know what's going to happen financially to them in the next few years. You don't know any of that, but if you can have a direct positive impact, that's the best you can do. And I think that can that's kind of maybe undervalued. Not everything needs to be solving every problem, if you know what I mean.
I think it's just obviously we do a lot of soft touch and light touch support across the board at Creative Spark. But obviously I am really invested in young people. There's 43 young volunteers in that chat that we will see on a regular basis. Can't count on how many references I've written, how many organisations I've spoken to. Oh, this person, maybe I've seen your job that you've got here, I think this person would be great for that. I will be the biggest advocate for young people and their future. And unfortunately we live in a world where you need to make money. So if I can create a pathway that would enable to have a programme here that would enable you to learn what it's like to work, because even to get a job in a supermarket now is really difficult. So how are you going to get into a workforce if you don't know how to behave in one? So I suppose that's the kind of forward thinking future element. It's probably that young volunteering programme that we have, but how do we turn that into meaningful future options for young people? Is, can we have a creative apprenticeship scheme here? Can we have and then could we get money to have an intern again? Could we do something like that? And also like to calm you down and go, you're all 16, 17. These choices you make now do not define who you are. Like it could take you 20 years, 30 years to discover what that passionate thing is. But I suppose my advice to be is, don't be caught up with the letters on a page. The letters on the page don't mean anything, and the pennies in the bank account don't mean anything either. Because if you're not kind and respectful, I feel like you need to be a good person first. And I feel like my message, I suppose, about future for young people is just don't worry, just enjoy it, just be young and don't worry about it. Like you've got your whole life to be an adult, so I feel like just take that in.
It's a good note to end on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
You've been listening to Creative Speaks. Join us next time to hear more of what's going on inside young minds.